Okay. Hi, I'm Alyssa Neighbors. I'm a teacher in West Dallas. I teach web technology and I run Tech Club after school. And I'm also the founder of DFW Tech Teachers. And joining to me today is the awesome Tammy Schrader. Tammy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tammy Schrader, and was a teacher for 15 years at a middle school. Taught seventh grade life science, but also did a lot of STEM, computer science, gaming, computer programming, and engineering classes. And I stepped out of that role to take a job at an ESD, which serves 59 school districts. So now I work with 59 school districts implementing science, computer science, and all that that entails.
Awesome. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. So today we're going to be talking about Makerspaces, which is a buzzword that's been around for a few years now. And as we both discovered, sort of to our chagrin, not everybody knows what a makerspace is. So let's start with talking about that. And Tammy, you've got the experience over me, so you go first.
Actually, I don't have the experience over anyone. So Makerspaces, if you ask me to summarize them, and I get asked to summarize them, Makerspaces is about having a space where students can access technology and equipment in order to design and engineer products around science and actually around all core subjects, right? Around computer science. And does that, I mean, that's my 20-second speech, right? Around it's an actual space where kids can go and create, and all the equipment is just right there. And so that the space lends itself to that kind of creativity.
Oh my gosh, you know what I just realized?
What?
You're, since I don't have headphones in, you're probably echoing in the live stream.
Okay, so you want me to pull the headphones?
No, I need headphones. So I'll be right back. Your
Okay.
headphones were a good idea. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay. No, it's a tradition now. I have problems every single time I do one of these. I have problems with the audio. So maybe I headed this one off at the pass. Let's see. Make sure I can still hear everything. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for bearing with me through that.
No worries.
Okay. Um, so, hi, Terry.
Hi! I'm having little technological difficulties here, but I made it.
Yes, that's the important part. Um, so, Terry, you want to take a second and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Terry Harkey, and right now I'm in McKinney, Texas. I teach and prosper at an elementary school, K through 5 elementary school, Light Farms Elementary.
Awesome. And we just, before I realized that I needed headphones to keep the audio from going wonky, we were talking about what is a makerspace. How would you describe a makerspace to somebody who didn't know what that was?
To me, it's just allowing kids the opportunity to create. And that can be with technology, it can be with cardboard, it can be providing them puzzle pieces, Legos, anything. Just allowing them, like I said, the opportunity to create with whatever their chosen material is.
Awesome. So this is my first year trying to make a makerspace at my school. And I think there were a couple of big questions I had when I was getting started, and I'd like to pose those to you guys if you wouldn't mind. And the first big one was, how do I sell it to my principal? How do I sell it to the administration?
I'll go.
Terry, you want to go first, Terry?
Yeah, the way that I did that was my administration is very supportive of anything that we do in the library, but the way that I really have sold it to the teachers and the administration is trying to incorporate the things that we're doing in the library and Makerspace back into the curriculum, such as in the curriculum in Texas, fourth graders study circuitry. And so we bought Makeys and allowed them to experiment with the Makeys to learn about how a circuit has to be a complete circle. And if it's not, it's not going to work. And so just really trying to tie it back into the curriculum, I think, is how we can sell it more to teachers and to administration.
Awesome. Tammy?
I have several different answers to that. One of the ways that I sold it to my administration, I was a science teacher. And in order to incorporate next gen science standards and those engineering standards, I needed a space and I needed a way for kids to demonstrate their understanding. So in a way, what I did was I got it funded, by writing a grant, and it was just $2,000, which isn't a ton of money, but it's a start. And so we just kind of started incorporating it, right, for my students. I taught the seventh graders. Well, really what happened in that building was so all the seventh graders that I had were out talking about it, right? And that meant all the other kids in the building started coming in at lunchtime and before school and after school. And so we started forming clubs to do different things and using that space, right? And then what happened, so he kind of went along with it because the kids were engaged, they were activated, kids were actively seeking the experience. And then the other thing that happened was kids went home and told parents. And so he was getting feedback from parents, which is always wonderful. And then the community, what was really great is there were 2 middle schools and the other middle school didn't have anything like that. Well, the next thing I know, my superintendent is stopping me in the hallways. She's walking through and said, you realize that this is now, not only is the other middle school being asked by the community, hey, why aren't my kids getting opportunities to do these things? But the high school was, these kids were going to start feeding into the high school. And there was nowhere to work them into a program with this experience. And so she had to start working on the high school to make sure these kids had somewhere to go after they had these experiences. So it was kind of an organic process. And that's my personal experience. The way that I sell it to, now that I work with 59 districts, and I don't know that I necessarily have to sell it, but I go out and I say, here's what it can do for you. Here's how it's going to integrate into curriculum. And then I present different models for them to use. So some of them are, if you want to integrate it into curriculum, here's how to do that. If you want an after school club, here's how to do that. If you know what I'm saying? You just show them different models because our different districts, we have a district with 30,000 students and we have a district with 45 students. Mm-hmm. And those programs look very, very different. So if you kind of go out and you show them, this is what it could look like so that they're not building anything from scratch. That's been a really great way for our communities and our districts to start.
Absolutely. Had all these things nicely written and then it fell off. Okay. And how do you measure success? Like, how do you know whether your program has been successful outside? Clearly, community feedback is a big part of that. I think both of you mentioned a little bit of, like the kids are enjoying it and the teachers are enjoying it, or they're coming back and saying like, this is good and this is working for us. So outside of just getting that feedback from teachers, from the administration, and from the kids, do you use anything in particular to measure how successful your program is?
Terry, do you want to go or? Oh, I'll go first. Because I'm looking for very specific things I've learned, because I get asked this all the time by administrators. Hey, Tammy, it looks fun and engaging, but how do I measure success? That's a great question, by the way. And so these are, and of course it depends. It depends on what I want, right? when I was integrating it into a science curriculum, obviously I'm looking for increased understanding. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually looking at data for through formative assessment and actually ultimately through my standardized testing, right? But what I'm really looking for is, as a teacher, is I'm looking for increased engagement, I'm looking for increased attendance, and I'm looking for a decrease in behavior issues. And all three of those were always clear in my classroom.
Awesome. Terry?
I think absolutely what she just said. Just the engagement that I have with the kids when they come into the library and they know it's because we do Maker Days one time a month when they come to the library, and when they walk in and it's Maker Days in the library, I mean, they walk in and they're like, oh, it's Maker Day. I mean, they are so excited. Can we do this every time, you know? And they still check out books that time, but they do it in, 10 seconds. I had a parent approach me the other day because we do a coding club after school, and she said that her son could not talk about anything else this summer, and so he spent the entire summer on Scratch building stuff. That to me says success. And this
That's
is
awesome.
a kid he's an autistic kid who is a fifth grader and just has found his passion through what we did with our clubs last year. The problem that I'm having now is I'm scared to put out my club sign up. We started school a week and a half ago because there are so many kids and so many parents, because of the success of the program, that want to be involved, and I'm only one person. And so I've started recruiting other teachers to help me, but still we have almost 1,000 kids in our school right now. And with the sheer numbers of kids that we have in the school, even if we open it up to 50 kids, that's a lot of kids that can't participate. So we're looking now at finding other ways to increase the participation through adding days and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's incredibly successful. The kids are totally engaged. The creativity that you watch when they're just collaborating and working together to build something is phenomenal. The teachers love it. The teachers don't want to leave the library. The kids don't want to leave the library.
That's true.
I mean, all of those things to me say success.
Absolutely. That's essentially how I'm judging success right now. We're gearing up for our first Maker event in a couple of weeks, and I have so many more kids interested in this than even last year when I did a workshop on how to build, like, how to code a video game. Like, the fact that they're going to be making things and trying to, like, solve a problem is really psyching them up, and I'm psyched too, because there's such a response. There's, like, kids already planning what they're going to do. It's amazing.
That's great.
I think a big question for anybody that's getting started with this is what's the cost in terms of materials and manpower? Terry's already said she's got to bring in more people because there's been such an incredible response. So if you're just getting started, what should you expect in terms of, what you're going to need to ask for, like, and get funded, and what are you going to need to expect in terms of time commitment?
I'll take this.
Anybody who wants to jump in.
So time commitment to me was not, it was more on the front end, getting everything set up. And once I had everything set up, this year I'm going to do it even different. I'm going to do a Remind 101 to the parents, just to remind the students, this next Monday is Coding Club, or this next Monday is Makerspace, or this next Monday is our Reading Club. So I'm trying to make it easier on myself with that. Manpower, I mean, it has grown, but every time I've sent an email out to the teachers, we had like over 75 kids involved in an after-school reading club. And I sent an email out to the teachers and just said, I need help. And they responded. So I've really had teachers step up and help me, which has been good. Parents are willing to help too. And some parents will even say, if you'll put my kid in the group, I will come help you. Okay, that's kind of like bribery. So I try to not do that until we get kids in the group, and then I get some parents that are, willing to come in and help. As far as cost, it can be cheap. I have two sons of my own, and they're in college now. So I've taken their Legos up. I've taken puzzles up. I've asked parents for Legos and puzzles. I've done a lot of stuff through Scholastic Dollars with their book fairs.
Mhm.
I've gotten grants. I know this has nothing to do with Makerspace, but this past weekend, I picked up a fish tank because I heard about a grant called Pets in the Classroom, and they will send you everything you need to set up a pet in the classroom. So there's grants out there for different things. You just got to be willing to kind of hunt and peck. Our PTO has stepped up this year and wants to know how they can fund it.
Perfect.
Because they know it has been successful and they want to fund it and have Makerspace stuff available for the teachers to check out so that the kids can do it in the classroom. So they've asked me to come up with a list of things that they can provide for the teachers. And we'll put them through the library and let them check them out there. But there's money out there and there are people out there that are willing to help if you just ask. But the way I do stuff is I buy one of anything that I'm going to use. If I'm going to purchase something, I buy one to see if the kids like it, to see if it meets the educational goal that I have. And then if it's successful, then I find a way to purchase more. But I always start out with one thing because the kids might not like, playing with it or creating with it or using it. So I always just purchase one and then go from there.
That's a good
And it's
plan.
grown. I mean, I've been doing this 3 years at the school that I'm at right now. And every year we add to it. And every year you hear about new stuff. I mean, every single year, I go to ISTE, I go to TLA, TCEA, and you hear about new stuff. So you add one more thing every month or one more thing every, so often, and then build on that.
Yeah. So, and my response to that is when I needed manpower, the two places that I hit are retired teachers. Because we have sororities and around retired teacher groups. And so I let them know that I need a certain amount of time, because they volunteer time and get credit for that. But the other thing is we have a local college that happens to be a couple blocks up the street from us. And college students are always needing hours to volunteer, right? Pre-service teachers, it's terrible but true. And so we have that resource in our community for manpower. And for equipment, I usually I will send out an email, an all staff email, and say, if I'm looking for something specific, X, Y, or Z. And if they don't have it, maybe they know somebody that does, that'll volunteer. It doesn't matter, fabric or whenever I was doing a project, I would just send that out. Garage sales. And actually, I just did a workshop and it was really funny because one of the things we did was an engineering makerspace type thing. And that was their question. Tammy, we don't have tons of funds. And as teachers, we know that. And I said, you know what? Seriously, if kids want something extraordinary, if they can bring that and share, I put that out as well. But the dollar store has a ton of stuff sometimes that I'll just go down and get, $10 worth of stuff and it'll carry me pretty far. One time, this is terrible. One time I did a workshop around, we were modeling hand pollinators. And seriously, I was traveling, so I wasn't going to travel with a whole bunch of stuff and pay to have it shipped. So you know what? Literally, I went down to my local Starbucks and said, hey, can I steal some of your stoppers, can I have some stuff that we could use, right? Straws or whatever. And organizations like that, they love to donate to schools. Our local Starbucks constantly gives us extra cups or straws or whatever, right? That we may or may not use.
That's awesome. I'm actually in the process of harassing all of my local pizza joints to get pizza boxes for our event. I've only had one that goes, we don't donate anything. And I was like,
oh,
okay.
Wow.
I also found, go ahead.
My local recycling, when I was doing bottle rockets, I went down to my local recycler and they had tons of bottles for that. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. I apologize.
No, you're fine. Because I'm the newbie here, so I'm just kind of throwing stuff out as I've discovered it in the last couple of months. I actually went to the library last week. I was looking for some resources, and I found 3 really awesome books. Sneaky Uses for Everyday Things, Sneakier Uses for Everyday Things, and Unscrewed. the sneaky uses books are all about taking apart old walkie-talkies and cassette players, and not like extensive rewiring, but sort of like there's one, how to use a walkie-talkie to make your own tripwire security system, and a couple of other things like that. And Unscrewed is all about what you can find that's just kind of junky, like from old remote control cars to clock radios, and how to take it apart and salvage the different things that you can reuse in other projects.
Wow.
So yeah, so I went to thrift shops after the library, and I had a really good weekend.
I've also hooked up with my technology department and asked them to send me anything that would be safe for kids to take apart. So they send me, old computers. They send me just all sorts of stuff for the kids to take apart, just so they can start learning how, what stuff looks like on the inside and how to take it apart and how to put it back together. We had a couple of, this past year, we had a couple of electric pencil sharpeners that kept getting broken. And so I said, if you have a broken electric pencil sharpener, just bring it to the library. And so the kids would, or the teachers would bring it to the library, and I would have the kids take it apart and figure out what the problem was and put it back together.
That's awesome.
And I mean, so we refurbished our pencil sharpeners, which
wonderful.
is, the kids love doing that. They
Brilliant.
think they are masterminds now at pencil sharpener, so but
And
I mean,
they are
what it's all about. They're so excited about being able to help and do something. So like I said, you just beg and borrow stuff from everywhere if you're going to do a makerspace.
Borrow and steal. Well, I guess not steal. So the last question I've got is, so like, hypothetically, you've got, if you're able to answer those first two kind of questions, although the first question was kind of a series of questions, if you're able to get support and you're able to get material and set it all up, how do you make sure that the kids are having the best, well, not the best time, like obviously want them to have fun, but how do you make sure you're offering a really engaging experience?
So I'll go on this.
That's it.
So
yeah, Terry, you're great.
So what I was going to say is, the first year that I did this, it was just kind of a free-for-all. And so the kids would come in and I just let them play with, they just got to pick. And I would set it out. So like one day I had kindergarten all day long. So I would set out anything that was appropriate for kindergarten that I had in my makerspace. And the kids came in, and at first I had it very structured, and I had this little, card on the table that had, two little people on it. And if there were two people on it, then two people could be at that center. And, this table had four people on it. And so four people could be at that center. And so they came in and like self-policed themselves. And so sometimes there were 8 kids around, and I was like, well, that doesn't go with the card. But they, it didn't matter. They were having a great time. My one thing now is, if a kid comes and asks, can they play with you, that you have to say yes. And you have to allow that. So it's really, it's really helped them get along and be creative together and collaborate. When they started doing straws and connectors, which I absolutely love, that's the best money I probably have ever spent. But when they started, every single time they did this, building straws and connectors and building a tower to the ceiling, every single time, or they would get the spheros out and just run them from one side of the library to the other side of the library and just crash into stuff. I thought, okay, the free for all is cool, but we've got to have some structure here. So what I've started doing is I've created some challenge cards. And I found some challenge cards online. There's this thing called Strawby challenge cards that are on Amazon that you can get. And they just give you ideas about things that you can build. And so the kids have to take a card and build that. And they can choose anything they want to build it out of, but they have to do a challenge. Another thing, tying back into the curriculum, second grade was studying folk tales and fairy tales last year. And so what I had them do was they could come in and select any material that they wanted to, but they had to take one of the stuffed animals off our shelves and build a functional and comfortable chair for that stuffed animal. And then they had to explain why it was functional and comfortable for that animal. So I've really tried to tie it back into the curriculum, but also, when it doesn't tie back into the curriculum, give them challenge cards. I think it's really important the first time they come in, though, or the first couple of times they come in, that you just let them play so they can get used to all the stuff that's there and, learn how to work together, learn how to create together, learn how to collaborate on a project. But you can even in that give them a challenge. Okay, so today what we're going to do is this table right here is going to build this. This table is going to build this. So I've really tried to structure it more, not only to go along with the curriculum, but to actually offer them a challenge. So that's kind of the evolution of what we've done. And like I said, it's totally controlled chaos, sometimes out of control chaos. But and the library is supposed to be a quiet place. My library is not quiet a lot of times, just because they are building and they are working together and they're collaborating and they need one more piece of this. Does anybody have this piece that they can use? So but like I said, I've tried to get a little bit more intentional in what they're doing and not just let it be a free for all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the question was about offering engaging experiences, and I couldn't agree with Terry more. First of all, if kids have never experienced a makerspace or a classroom that operates like a makerspace, the part where they just get a chance, that can be actually overwhelming to seventh graders. I taught seventh graders, and the first time I just gave them a problem, they walk in the first day of class and I just gave them a problem and all the stuff is out. They are looking at each other like, what do we do? And I said, here's your material, solve the problem. The problem's on the board. The problem was, if I wanted to make fishing lures with glow in the dark material, are they going to glow brighter in warmer water or colder water? Help me out. I need the answer, right? I mean, seriously, is that open-ended? And at first, it takes them about a month to just realize, okay, when they come in, I'm just going to hand them a problem. How they solve it is how they solve it. I'm not gonna cookbook it for them. I need them to figure it out, right? But one of the things that I realize too is that it needs to have rigor, and if it has relevance, it's okay to play and build and just be creative. But really, if you can, and of course I did it inside of science, but a relevant task, right, that has rigor. So it's almost like this whole, have you ever watched kids play video games? It's amazing to me that they'll continue to play until they figure it out, right? It's that space between, it's hard enough that we know you're not handing us anything, but it's not so easy. You know what I'm saying? It's not so easy that we don't care, but it's not so hard I know I can't get it, right? And it's finding that sweet spot for kids to really engage them with a problem that they really want to solve. And so another thing that I have is flexibility. I can come up with things and inside of my science standards that I want kids to be able to do, like hand pollinators, right? But if a kid comes to me, and they learn quite quickly, if they come to me and go, this is great, but I want to make one that'll pollinate 20 flowers at the same time. Okay. Okay, go. Fly be free. Let me know how that works out for you. So it's also giving kids their own voice, and to have them use their own creativity, and to teach them that, whatever their ideas are, go. I can't tell you how many times in science I'll say, this cannot be done. And what kids hear is, it's not been done yet, but they're sure they can do it. So I don't even bother. It's like kids will come to me and they'll say, I'm going to try this. And even if I know that scientifically it's just not going to work. Okay. Because letting them figure that out is just as important as letting them figure out what does work. So the other part I would add to that is student voice. I make sure that students know that they are safe to give feedback, and as long as they are not blowing themselves up, because we have had fire in my classroom on purpose. As long as they know that, like, the safety, best lesson I ever gave, or for one kid, was they started doing the soldering and they're doing it on the counter, and I smiled and I said, do you know how hot this tip is going to get? Yeah, I'm sure it's going to get really hot. And I said, can you find somewhere in the room that might be better than it? Because my counters were flammable. My tabletops were not. And they looked around and they said, oh, I think we're going to make it, you know what I mean? But let them figure things out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Worst trouble somebody ever got into was he was an engineer and he was helping out my classroom. And I said to kids, okay, you're going to want to build a car. Well, all the equipment's there, the wheels, everything's there. And his son actually came to me and said, and his son is a great kid, by the way, but this is the same kid who would say to me, should I put my name on this paper? So basically he came over, he goes, am I going to need wheels for that? And I'd just say, I don't know. Well, what? I don't know. So his dad went over and put a bunch of stuff on the kid's table. And I'm watching, and he comes over, and the dad looks at me. It's great. He looks at me, goes, I'm in trouble, aren't I? I said, yep. I said, you don't ever want to do something for a kid that they can do for themselves. I know he's struggling. Because really, does it matter what the car looks like? No. Does it matter? I mean, really, does it matter? No. You have to build this because then we're going to program it to do something, right? There's no rules, right? Anyway, that's how I make sure that kids are engaged, because they have a voice in what they get to do.
That's awesome.
Too, we've got to be careful and not limit our kids in our understanding of stuff, because in doing makerspace talks and everything, I find that people feel like they have to be masters of whatever it is before they present it to the kids. I am not a master of almost anything that I have that's a makerspace, but I have kids that are, and so kids will become experts on something. And so a kid will come up and say, hey, how do I save this in Bloxels? Riley, get over here and show him how to save it in Bloxels. I have no idea, but we can't try to figure everything out to our 100% comfort level before we allow the kids to do it. You don't have to know how to do it. The kids will figure it out every single time. And usually they figure it out beyond what I could even dream of. I had a kid last year that was playing with little bits, and so he was putting a thing together, and he had a light meter and the buzzer that just makes this obnoxious noise. And so he had a kid sitting next to him, and so he would turn up he turned up the volume until it bugged the kid next to him, and he would measure on the light meter where that was. And so the kid came and asked me if I could give him a cup. And I said, what do you want a cup for? And he goes, I want to attach it to this sound to determine if I amplify the sound through a cup, if it bugs him faster according to my light meter. Okay, who thinks of that? So I went and got a styrofoam cup. He cut out the bottom of it, put the sound thing inside the cup, and then it amplified to this kid sitting next to him more. And so I was like, so did it annoy him faster? He goes, according to the light meter, it did.
Isn't that great?
That's amazing.
But I mean, like I said, if we limit the kids in what our understanding of it is, we're harming our kids. Yeah. I mean, we just gotta, okay, here's a cup. What are you going to do with it? But like I said, we don't have to be the experts. Let them figure it out.
Absolutely. And that's, for me, that's what I'm really hoping for my baby makerspace to do for the kids, is to, get them a little bit beyond, like, today we learned how to make a video game, and more like, I've learned that, this technology piece that we have can fit into this larger idea of solving a problem or creating solutions, and being a little bit more about, like a real world skill than walking away knowing how to make a bunch of stuff just in Scratch. Mm-hmm. Not that Scratch isn't great, but being able to sort of see a big picture part rather than just, I did X, Y, Z, and now I'm done.
Yeah.
It's true.
Do you guys have any final thoughts you'd like to share as we wrap up?
Can I just say how important what Terry just said is? I just want to reiterate that. You know what? One of the pushbacks I get from teachers, and rightly so, is they're uncomfortable because they think they have to know everything. Let it go. Let it go, because those kids are so far beyond creativity and experiences than anything I've ever you know what I mean? I can provide a foundation, but let them go. You'll be amazed.
Absolutely.
I think mine would be reiterating that too. Our kids are capable of more than we can even dream or think. And we've just got to provide opportunities for them. I do think balance is important, especially if you're doing it in the library, because I'm a K through 5 librarian, and books are very, very important to me. So I've heard some people go, every single time they come to the library, we do a makerspace, or um, or I'm not going to do that because this is the library. It should be all about books. I think there's got to be a balance in there. Um, if you're doing it in a science class, it's going to look different. There are some days that you're not going to use, makerspace stuff, but there's some days that it's going to fit perfectly into what you're doing. So you've got to have a balance. But once again, you don't have to understand everything. You find the kid that can come in at lunch and learn how to do bloxels. You find the kid that can come in at lunch and learn how to do the next coding thing that you're doing, so that they're the expert. And it gives them a leadership opportunity, and they absolutely love it. People sometimes are afraid to start maker spaces. It is the easiest thing I've ever done. And the kids absolutely love it. The teachers love it. The parents love it. Like I said, we're having the trouble with trying to figure out how to incorporate 964 kids into, our after school clubs right now. But it's a good problem to have. And we'll figure out a solution. I just don't know what it is yet. But carry on and do makerspace. I mean, there's no reason not to.
I like that. I think that's a good note to end on. I want to thank you both for joining me, and I think I'm hoping this will be really helpful for anybody who's just getting started. I know that I have even more ideas, and I'm feeling even more optimistic about my first year. So thank you guys for joining me. This was really awesome.
All right. Thanks for setting it up.
Thank you. It was fun.
It was great.